Let's go, Paul.
I'm here.
We are live, baby. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I don't think it's afternoon anywhere, but it could be. Good evening, good night, whatever. Welcome to episode 46 of the Moor Insights and Strategy Data-Centric podcast. I am joined by Paul Smith-Goodson, our fearless leader, Will Townsend of this podcast. Will Townsend, networking security expert. And I am Matt Kimball, and I don't do a whole lot of anything except sit outside in Plymouth, Massachusetts. And yeah, that's not a fake background. Hey, we're here to talk all things data center. But before we get into what we're going to talk about and all the exciting news of the week, a couple of things. House cleaning. Please like and subscribe, or subscribe and like, whichever order you want to go in. Works for us. Don't take anything we say as meaningful from an investment perspective. I'm glad to see both of you shaking your heads. And take this for what it is. It's our personal opinions on what's going on in the world of technology, and nothing more, nothing less. Will, great to see you. Paul, great to see you. You guys doing all right?
Doing good. I'm in Florida. I'm sporting my Florida fishing baseball cap. I'm here with my brother and two nephews. It's their first visit, and we've got a couple of fishing expeditions scheduled. We're dodging the weather a little bit here, but it's always great to be back at my home in the Florida Keys. So
excellent. Yeah. And Paul, you are holding down the fort in Austin, keeping things sane in that city. Is that correct?
Trying to keep things stable here, you know.
You are the king of stability. I've often said that about you.
Yes.
All right. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk Palo Alto networks. We're going to talk, and Okta. We're going to talk Microsoft. We're going to talk AWS. We're going to talk Zscaler. We're going to talk Q-CTRL. We're going to talk IBM and Power11 and the beauty of Power11. Lots to talk about. I think we're going to kick it off with the young Will Townsend because you are the kid of the class. So let's
young at heart.
Young at heart.
Not an age.
Old in spirit. Let's jump right in. What do you get to talk about Palo Alto and Okta and their amazing partnership?
Well, hey, Matt, I know this is the Data Center Podcast brought to you by Moor Insights and Strategy. I'm going to color a little outside of the lines. And so, because I think this is a significant announcement, but it broke this week. And often in the cybersecurity industry, you see a lot of partnerships, and even between direct competitors at times, when you look at the collection of threat intelligence and just, what that benefits for the good of customers. But this particular partnership, in my mind, leverages the strengths of both companies. So Palo Alto Networks and Okta announced a partnership, and what it marries together is Palo Alto's strengths in endpoint and AI runtime protection. Palo Alto also acquired an enterprise browser a few years back. They've been quickly, sort of improving those capabilities. And that category, by the way, is getting pretty hot. I recently spoke to another company, Mammoth Cyber, and I've been meaning to publish something, either on Forbes or on our website around the power of enterprise browsers. And I know one of our other analysts, our data or our enterprise application analyst, Jason, is weighing in on that sort of thing. But let me get to it. So that's what Palo Alto brings. I mean, obviously, Okta is a leader in identity access management. Mm-hmm. And so what the two companies are doing, they're collaborating, they're bringing sort of best of breed together. There's also an indication there could be some sort of future roadmap development. So it's more than just an integration. But at the end of the day, we've talked about AI and the power in the data center and what it's unlocking. I mean, look at NVIDIA stock. It's going bonkers this week. Again, not making a recommendation to our viewers or listeners to go buy NVIDIA, but AI is a double-edged sword when you look at generative and you look at agentic. And Palo Alto Networks has tremendous strength in runtime security, the whole notion of red teaming and that sort of thing. And so I really like this partnership. Two companies that are coming together that are going to deliver better security outcomes. I mean, identity continues to be a moving target. Most lateral movement and entry into networks is through identity, whether that's socially engineered through phishing and spear phishing campaigns, or just poor hygiene, right? So I like this. This partnership, and I provided some further insights on my handles on X and LinkedIn. But I know, Matt, security sort of crosses your swim lane too, as it relates to compute and storage. What are your initial thoughts? And then I'd love to get Paul's thoughts.
Interesting. First, I do have a question before I answer that. Does Palo Alto do a identity access platform, or
no? It's not been traditionally a strength of theirs. So I mean, obviously, this is an opportunity for the two to come together. And what I also like about this too, and then I'll let you talk, is that it allows some cross-selling to occur, within their respective install bases. So from a go-to-market perspective, it's also positive. But that's the answer to your question. But no.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the customer focus. If there's a kind of a gap in your portfolio regarding coverage, working with what could be classic, considered classic competitors, to even if you're not direct competitors, kind of still adjacencies, working together to meet those needs. I mean, when you talk to enterprise IT, the one thing you hear is it's security is so fractured. We always talk about the 1,500 plus vendors and all the different platforms, and who wins, who doesn't, how do you make it all work? Seeing companies that would naturally be kind of rivals or competitors working together to make it easier for enterprise IT to lock down their data in their environments I love to see it. It's fantastic. It shows an openness and it shows a customer first mindset. So
yeah, awesome. Paul, any thoughts?
Just usually my usual stuff. I kind of look out for the little guy, even with all the automation and setting up and maintaining the secure access rules and policies and threat response actions and stuff like that. It's resource intensive, and smaller organizations may find out that overhead outweighs the benefit if they don't have the in-house expertise to monitor and manage both of the tools.
Yeah, I think that's where the integration has to come into play, and automation should be kind of a fundamental tenet of any design process right now. If these companies aren't focused on kind of driving efficiency through automation from a kind of management perspective, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and from my perspective, when you sort of look at the agentic AI opportunity, I mean, it's going to drive automation in every tech stack, right?
Yep.
We saw this at HPE Discover, Matt, when you and I were there.
Yep.
The company is starting with Aruba networking, and with GreenLake Intelligence, it expects to expand that to the entire stack. And when you think about that, you're going to have orchestration super agents, you're going to have task-based agents. They're all going to have to kind of interface, amongst each other. And I think as companies like Palo Alto Networks with its Agentics platform, and certainly in Okta and Cisco and others, as those platforms mature, I mean, given the fact that, hey, listen, platforms are great, but the reality is, even with tool sprawl, most organizations are not going to kind of solidify or consolidate down to one particular vendor. It's going to be hopefully instead of 50 or 60 point solutions, it's going to be less than a baker's dozen. And so those agents are going to have to interface with each other, and actually, that's a great kind of gratuitous opportunity for me to plug my work. So Cisco has formed something called Adjacency, and it's an open source framework where they've invited a lot of other participants to go figure that whole orchestration piece out. So I'll be publishing. It'll either be a research note or a Forbes article, depending on where that content goes in the near term. But there's a lot of focus on this. It needs to be addressed. And to your point, there's got to be tighter integration. But the opportunity for agentic AI to drive, widespread automation across every tech stack it's exciting, quite frankly.
It's exciting. It is exciting. Paul, you got a lot of stuff going on here. We missed you the last couple of weeks, and it looks like you're coming back with the bang. Although I'm a little disappointed that your headline is not more catchy. You're losing your Mad Men touch.
No, it's kind of a disconnect when you get to the last word there. You think of Microsoft,
is that mange or Magne?
It's actually pronounced Magne.
Yeah, it's like rhyme with orange. Yeah.
Yeah. It needs a G in there, a T in there, or magnet. Anyway, it's a serious venture. IFO, which is spelled EIFO, is one of Denmark's export and investment funds, and the Novo Nordisk Foundation have committed about 80 million euros to establish a new quantum computing company called QNorth. And the idea is that they want to advance the region's technology and development with quantum. The machine they're going to build will be the first operational deployment of the system, powered by logical qubits. I mean, most everything right now is powered by just plain old level 1 qubits.
Mm-hmm.
And these are level 2 qubits because they're logical. And the Nordic people are concerned that they're falling behind in the quantum race, and they actually are. Atom computing has already established something in Copenhagen. They put Denmark as their regional headquarters over there, so they've got a leg up. So Microsoft and Atom Computing have done a lot of research together, and they've come up with some really neat and efficient quantum developments. I've written about a few of them in the past. But anyway, it's going to help Denmark with coming up with a quantum computer. It's basically going to be a atom computer, which is a neutral atom, and using some of Microsoft's expertise on it to kind of spiff it up a little bit. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be released sometime, I think, next year. It's a relatively small organization. You can't do a lot with 80 million euros.
Right.
I think you're going to have like 10 PhDs or 10 employees total, and maybe 3 or 4 PhDs. So it should be interesting. I'd like to see Europe build a really high quality machine. I think between atom computing and Microsoft, that's certainly going to be a machine like that.
So Paul, I'm just going to counter you on one thing. There's quite a bit I can do with 80 million euros for what it's worth. So you said there's not a lot you can do with 80 million euros. I'm going to beg to disagree with you.
I could do a lot with 80 million euros.
Yeah.
Here's what I love about Paul. When Paul is on the podcast, it raises our collective IQ. It creeps us into the low 80s. So I thank you so much for that. That is fantastic. So what does this mean for the advancement of so Europe is kind of putting a little bit more skin in the game as it relates to quantum. Does this move the needle forward a lot in kind of the quantum world, or is kind of what's going on here in the States really driving? Is that really the gravitational force?
You look at the fact that on one end of the scale, IBM is by 29. IBM's going to have a machine that can run several billion gates. It's going to have a lot of logical qubits. It's going to be fault tolerant. It's going to be a massive machine.
Yeah.
But so when you compare, 80 million euros and a relatively small machine like this, you can't really compare the two.
Yeah. Okay.
But this is there's a lot of development work that can be done with atom computing's machine.
Sure.
Neutral atom is a good modality, and I think it's yet to be really blown out in terms of what it can actually do. I know Microsoft and Atom are doing a lot of really neat research. So, work out.
I'm going to just make one comment, and I know I make it every time you talk about quantum, but it blows my mind, and it struck me at AWS yesterday too when I was at their AI event or their summit, and that is I don't think people like you do, and I mean smart people like you, but I don't think the market in general fully understands the impact of agentic AI and then leading into quantum on the way we live today from a technology perspective, how disruptive these things are going to be to the industry. Truly, it's not just going to reshape, it's going to remake kind of the technology industry. It's crazy, and it's almost scary to think about it too much.
Yeah, here you go. Here's one thing I'm working on right now is we're going to have a fault tolerant quantum computer, a very large one. It's going to do a lot of really neat stuff in 29. And by 29, there's a lot of predictions that AGI is going to probably happen in the next 4 or 5 years anyway. So what happens when we got AGI, working at human level intelligence on AI machines, and we've got a fault tolerant quantum computer running in parallel? Right. What kind of neat stuff can they do together?
What kind of stuff?
I'm writing an article about that, and I don't know what happens at the end yet.
It's almost I don't think anybody. It's almost Asimov-like, and when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. It's a fascinating topic.
So look for Magne.
Keep an eye out for them.
Keep an eye out, but don't invest in them. We're not providing investment advice.
No. I just said look for it.
All right, moving on to AWS and the Agentic Lifecycle. So I'll go quickly through this. I had the pleasure of attending. I'm not a fan of New York, so forgive me if I talk a little bit down about it, but I had the pleasure of attending that dirty, disgusting, filthy city of New York the last couple of days to attend AWS analyst event and their summit customer event. And as you would imagine, it was all about AI, and it was really more about agentic AI. And this is where it kind of prompted my earlier comment, Paul, to on a smaller scale than quantum, but fascinating conference. Here are a couple of things I took away from it. First, the only two real truths in the AI game are that NVIDIA is an absolute requirement and will be the backbone, and almost every AI engagement is going to be partner-led. And by partner-led, I mean Accenture, Deloitte, EY, Pricewaterhouse, McKinsey, so on and so forth, because companies just can't go at it alone.
Yeah.
And it's going to be more and more difficult for, if you kind of look at it as almost a kind of a square signal, right? Your two highs are going to be NVIDIA on one end and partners on the other. And everything under there at 0 volts is going to be cloud, software, servers, infrastructure, all of it else. Everything else is going to be difficult to play in. The only things we know for sure are I need a partner to help me, and I need NVIDIA on the back end. And so I went into this with like, how is AWS really going to differentiate itself? And I thought they did a really good job of kind of telling their story around how they actually do that. And it's really about kind of connecting users, consumers to technology, right? Through their marketplace, get all of your partners' agents up there. Look at all the points of friction along the AI journey and try and remove them through your cloud services, and do so in a cost-effective manner, and provide all the tooling you possibly can. I thought they did a great job of doing that. The other thing they did is they showed how to take agentic AI and take an agent and turn it from a really good idea or proof of concept into actual operation. And they have this thing they announced called Bedrock. It's Bedrock. It's part of their Bedrock service, which is their AI platform. Bedrock Agent Core, and it shows it. I shouldn't say show. It assists an enterprise or developer in the agent development process. Everything from I have an idea to this thing is live and I need to observe it and collect telemetry and make sure that it's running properly and so on and so forth, right? So if you think about that agent life cycle from idea to operations, Bedrock Agent Core builds in all of these tools and a lot of automation to help kind of drive that process a lot faster. How do you account for security? How do you account for that agent connecting to other agents and to other external services? How do you make sure it's utilizing resources in the right places and in the right way and in an optimal fashion? And how do you realize when maybe the use of that agent is expanding beyond what it's capable of supporting? Therefore, you need to dedicate more resources. They account for all of this and they build it into this agent core. Thought they did a fantastic job. I thought they did a really good job of kind of explaining why something like Marketplace, which sounds so basic and simple, is critical to the AI equation. Because I as a user, I know I want to automate my supply chain kind of optimization, right? But I don't know how to go about doing that. What if I could go to Marketplace and say, show me agents that automate my supply chain? Well, AWS will spit that out for you and show you easy ways to connect to those agents. So really great story. Love the story they told. I love that they promoted the heck out of their partners, the Accentures, the EYs, the Deloittes, and really made them the stars of the show, with AWS as really kind of the support on the back end. To me, it's a smart thing to do because we realize that that's the tip of the spear. So really quick, that's probably the fastest I've ever covered anything. But really quick, and just wanted to open up. I know y'all have thoughts on kind of agentic AI and what's going on.
Well,
and so
I have a question, Matt. So I mentioned what Cisco is doing, leading this agency effort with over 50 partners. So, and obviously the marketplace is big, but is what they're doing with Bedrock, is it just specifically focused on AWS and AWS workloads, or is it broader than that?
It's wide open. It's a great question.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was really impressed with. They're all about open. So Bedrock and Agent Core, they don't care what frameworks you're using. They don't care if you're going to use AWS as your cloud provider or somebody else.
Okay,
this is wide open. Yeah, and as part of that, I think they deployed 900 agents out onto Marketplace yesterday, which I think, in fairness, I think Azure has like 3,000 or something, but a really big step forward, and it crosses industries. So, yeah, no, they're trying to be as open as possible. Yeah.
That's great.
I think you're right. I know if you take, for instance, if you take Dell has got the AI factory, and you can buy it, have AI factory installed directly from Dell, or if you've got a relationship like with a financial institution or another institution, you can get financial institution X AI factory from them because your applications match with them.
Yep.
So you're exactly right.
Yeah, and it's the way it's going to be. There's a lot of talk around how do you kind of stand up agentic AI? And do you have multiple factories within a business, potentially, if you have a kind of multiple lines of business, and kind of how you kind of manage all of that at a meta level, if you will. It's fascinating. But I think, Paul, it's going to be super hard for a Dell and an HPE and a Lenovo and a Cisco on the compute side to truly differentiate their AI factory offering from one another. Because at the end of the day, I'm trying to buy NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA and other stuff. But NVIDIA is the star of the show. And at the end of the day, when the emphasis is on NVIDIA, everything else is almost secondary, right? And that's what I think makes it challenging, kind of from a hardware perspective and from a software perspective, to like drive that real differentiation. Companies like Dell, Dell Tech World took a similar tact. Their big star of the show was at Tech World was, I think it was Deloitte was there, kind of talking about the services they offer and all of the add-on services to make agentic AI work. HPE had a similar story. It really is about kind of understanding who is the tip of the spear, and then the specialties around the AI factories you need to tailor for your specific needs.
An important factor, though, is support. How much support you provide, if you're selling a, X AI factory, what kind of support do you provide with that? And I think that's where I'm not, not promoting Dell right now, but I know Dell's service is superior.
Like Dell, like Dell Professional Services, and I think Matt, because I have quarterly calls with that team, and they're doing really great things from my perspective. But I agree with you, Matt. It's going to be important for all of these providers of AI-enabled IT and OT infrastructure to focus on how they can remove friction from the process, because the differentiation on a hardware to hardware, apples to apples compare is going to be very difficult for them. So it could be in the orchestration layer. It could be a number of different things. It could be in the professional services delivery, like with Dell Technologies. But I think that's where it's going to come down to. Because you're right. Right, wrong, or indifferent, NVIDIA is the star of this show. So
one last thought on this. You're absolutely right. And one last thought on this related to what you're saying with the services. And actually going back to the comment on kind of quantum and agentic AI changing the kind of landscape. I don't know that we have fully kind of embraced how much agentic AI turns the SaaS and application commercial software market on its head. When you move to specific agents that are being deployed to perform functions, there are a couple of things that happen, right? Number one, do I need that ERP system that is in its current state to drive my organization when I have a bunch of independent agents that are performing functions and then working up through a super agent to give me? So what does that look like? And how do I account for that? And number two, all of the money that I used to pay to Accenture when I was in IT, and I paid them millions of dollars to provide services to me. The fact that I can now just grab a few agents and achieve a lot of the functionality through business process automation, workflow automation that I would have otherwise paid millions of dollars to kind of, drive innovation through is funky. This is going to drastically change how we consume, how we pay for, how we license technology. It's going to be fun to watch. How do you license an agent? Is it outcome based? Is it API calls? How do you license that? There's so much to think about that could probably be another podcast, but yeah,
that's a great observation, Matt.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. All right, let's move on because I tend to talk a lot. Zscaler and Will Townsend with his zero trust solution scaling capability. What's going on there?
Well, I'm going to color outside of the data center lines a little bit more. I was sort of blown away when this was one of the last briefings that I had when I spent time with Zscaler in June at their Zenith Live event. So this solution is called Zscaler Cellular. Say that 3 times really fast. It just announced. It's beyond preview. It's actually, it's kind of quasi general availability, quickly moving into high volume. But here's the premise. So cellular networks are very difficult to secure for a number of reasons. The diversity of devices, right? When you look at endpoints, when you look at smartphones, when you look at IoT sensors, they're just very, very difficult. They typically have different sort of policies that are managed. It's very bespoke, and all of this creates a massive threat surface. And so bad actors, continue to thump on these threat surfaces. They find ways to get in. And then they do bad damage. I mean, the famous story about the thermometer in a casino that got compromised, and that's how that bad actor was able to access the network, move laterally, and do really bad things. So Zscaler is taking a different approach with a simple SIM swap, and there's no need to download an agent or have any sort of software enable this, but with a Zscaler SIM. And this functions with its proven zero trust exchange. You can basically control and lock down the security of any IoT device that accepts a SIM. And not only can you do this with a physical SIM, but you can do this with an eSIM as well. Wow. And so I'm going to be really short and to the point here. I did publish some insights on July 8th when this dropped, both on X and on LinkedIn. And just yesterday, my 5G partner in crime, Anshul Sag, and we actually did a standalone edition of our G2 on 5G podcast, where we had 2 executives, Nathan and Ken, on the podcast, and we talked more about it. So for our viewers and listeners, go hit, my social media posts, go check out that. It's about a 25-minute video. It's very informative, but I think this is just the beginning of what Zscaler is able to do. I mean, there's a host of capabilities and functionality that can be leveraged from this. Now, some of it, you gotta be careful because there are privacy, things. I mean, think about this. Like if you're Taylor Swift and you want to sort of cloak yourself and you don't want someone to be able to track you, because you can do this via SIM. You could use a Zscaler SIM, and you're basically invisible, right? That's awesome. So whether you're Taylor Swift or you're a VIP or you're Matt Kimball because you're a VIP,
Paul Smith-Goodson,
Paul Smith-Goodson. But I think they're really onto something here, and it's going to be exciting to see what happens. So again, I'm coloring outside of the data center lines on this, but I felt it was pretty relevant to discuss. So.
Is this Zscaler's, forgive my ignorance, is this Zscaler's first foray outside of like data center security, or is this kind of normal for them?
So it's a natural adjacency for them to go into, but the difference is it's with respect to cellular devices, right? So when you look at what they do with their ZIA and their ZPA, so their Zscaler Internet Access, their Zscaler Private Access. I mean, there is endpoint protection that's going on there because this is all inline. It goes through their cloud. They're able to do really interesting things in traditional deployment environments, like mask threat surfaces, and they like to say that the device that you can't see is the most well protected device. So they're taking all of what they've been doing really, really well within the enterprise, and they're extending this into mobility. So I mean, this is potentially a huge opportunity for them to monetize and leverage what they're already good at, but just take it and extend that into mobile networks. And by the way, I'm not going to pick on any particular mobile network operator, but every single MNO in the world has challenges securing devices and securing their networks. And this just be another layer, another protection that they can deploy. So I think it's pretty cool stuff.
Holy TAM expansion.
Yeah, holy TAM expansion, Batman.
That's awesome. It's nice to go outside the data center, even though we're the smart kids. Nice to go outside the data center every now and again. Hey, I didn't see this in our setup, but what's this next gen Naval Nav thing? Because like now you're talking my language, Paul Smith Goodson.
It sounds
that's
a little provocative too, Paul. Like, what's up with that?
Quantum is coming to the rescue of navigation on the seas. There's a company called Q-CTRL that does a lot of work in quantum infrastructure software. They've got a lot of good products and stuff. And they just recently announced that they've got a development of another quantum sensing development for navigation. And they've got typically got ruggedized technology, and this particular navigation item has been actually put on a ship, and I think it ran for, if I remember right, it ran for like 144 hours without any type of human intervention or anything. So it looks like it's pretty solid. I can't imagine, and they're developing it because of there's a lot of work being done by the bad guys and trying to defeat GPS.
Yeah.
And neutralize it. And can you imagine a world without GPS? I mean, I don't think my watch even works without GPS. So.
Right.
But go ahead.
So we're talking quantum sextants?
Quantum technology. Yeah, basically. They did a test aboard the Royal Australian Navy aviation training vessel called the MV Sycamore.
Okay.
And it during these trials, they deployed a quantum dual gravimeter that measures, very, very tiny variations in the Earth's gravity. And so it's really part of a new generation of quantum-based positioning, the old PNT, positioning, navigation, and timing. You guys probably are familiar with that. And they're designed to operate when there aren't any GPS signals available or when they're compromised. So
it's like an accelerometer that uses kind of changes in gravitational.
Yeah, accelerometer, but very slight changes in when GPS isn't available normally. So yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it said it has a 50x performance improvement over the existing solutions that are out there right now. So looking forward to it. They do good work.
So if you could make that work, you would prevent the need for, say, submarines to ever surface.
If you could communicate.
Yeah, you still have a towed array that you're kind of communicating through, right?
Yeah. This is a big market. Boston Consulting said that this market, the quantum sensing market, is like $3 to $5 billion.
Wow.
It's going to be about $3 to $5 billion.
All right. One last question. I'm sorry, because I know this.
You know the subject pretty well, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, this goes outside the data. Definitely goes outside the data center. But is there a lot of consumer kind of technology starts in military use, right? And I remember when we were doing GPS systems were the size of refrigerators. Is this going to kind of, do you see a path maybe decades away where this kind of changes your traditional kind of GPS inside of your phone?
I don't know what the technology is going to eventually evolve into, but I would think probably, it's probably going to happen someplace down the road,
Oh, that's cool stuff.
There's forces out there we don't even know are out there. So
yeah.
So, but the way this works, I don't know, I'm probably confused you, but this device detects Earth's gravity. I mean, we've got like waves and stuff like that in the gravity. And
Yeah.
it detects that. And then a navigation, my dog wants out, a navigation computer compares those hills and valleys that it's sensing against known gravity maps.
Yep.
So it's kind of like
it is like an accelerometer. I mean, it's a change in some setting that you're using to predict how far you've moved in a certain amount of time in a direction. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool stuff.
Yeah. And they developed it in 14 months.
Holy heck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, one last question. The 144 hours, I think you said, was that
144, yeah.
did it break after 144 hours, or did they just say, okay, it's running?
Maybe they just said, hey, we can't do anything else with it. I don't know.
Okay.
But
All right.
I know it went for 144. Maybe that was the military threshold that said you have to run for at least.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they cut it off at 144.
Interesting. Okay.
It's an odd even number. Yeah.
Yeah.
6 days, right?
Sensing market in general, quantum sensing is going to be huge. I know with our little company, we're looking to do some trials and experimenting using quantum sensors for radio receivers. So that's a sensing type application.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're sensing RF waves, basically, like they're
So
sensing gravity waves.
This goes back to, I don't think we fully realize as a world or as a market the impact that quantum is going to have on kind of, what we do, how we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the sensing market is picking up right now. The whole, if you look at the entirety of the sensing market, it's expected to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 billion 4 or 5 years. So,
Jeez, man.
Come along.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to take us off course. Paul, that's fascinating. Fascinating stuff. All right, I'm going to close it out really quickly so that you guys can enjoy your beautiful summer days. IBM Power11, we're ending with the bang. So IBM launched last week its Power11 platform. And I think there are I know there are a few systems based on that. The SNL 1122, 1124, and then I think it's the 1150 and the 1180. So Power traditionally has been used. When you think of Power, you think of like big iron, right? I've got a huge Oracle database environment. I'm running IBM mainframes, or I'm running Linux 1 somewhere, and I want to use Power to house my Oracle database environment. They have a very healthy Oracle database environment, or business, I should say. But that's traditionally how people have viewed Power. So IBM switched it up a little bit with Power11, and they said, hey, you know what? There are all these other IT things going on: modernization, hybrid cloud, as a service, AI, in addition to what we do on the database side. And what's to keep Power11 from supporting those as well, right? Why can't we do scale up efficiently? So IBM Power11 kind of takes the Power platform and it moves it from a market that has been about $2 billion in size, and it is positioning it in a market that is now about $47 billion in size. That's the TAM expansion. Going after those environments where maybe I've deployed Dell or HPE or Lenovo to do hybrid cloud, or to do some modernization technique, cloud native technique or environment, or as a service. And they're saying, I think we have the performance, we have the reliability, we have the security, and we have the acceleration to not only perform, but deliver better performance and performance per dollar relative to the competition. So the 1122 is scale out, the 1124 is scale out, the 50 and 80 are scale up. But really great story. And when you think about kind of what they've done with Red Hat, and OpenShift. They've left Red Hat alone to be its own great software company or ISV, but they've also leveraged the goodness of Red Hat to enhance the IBM offerings as well. So they've taken OpenShift and they've deployed it on top of Power. They have taken Watson X Assistant and they've thrown it on top of Power, and they're saying this is your cloud native platform for the modern enterprise. Great story. I think they have a real opportunity. I don't think they've ever been aggressive enough with what they do in Power. They've always kind of stayed in their swim lane and said, we're happy with this, doing this $2 billion a year or so in business. And they've never reached the full potential. I don't think they're going to, go steal $47 billion worth of business. I don't think they're going to steal $20 billion worth of business. But I think existing IBM customers that are saying, how do we build out distributed environments to work alongside this Z system or this Linux One system? Power is a great story to go sell. And so I think they'll see some success with it. Just going to leave it there and get your thoughts on it.
What about the pricing, Matt? So and I get it. I went to my first Think this year and I was impressed with, what they're doing with One and that sort of thing. But
yeah,
kind of from a pricing standpoint, I mean, it's one thing to sort of expand your focus, right? And identify a much larger addressable market. But do you believe, and I get it, if they're claiming they can deliver better performance, better features, but from a pricing perspective, can it be competitive from your thought?
It can, but I think this is where their biggest challenge is. So the problem IBM has, let's call it the opportunity, right? We like to be positive.
Sure.
The opportunity IBM has is educating the market on understanding cost, understanding price, and understanding cost.
Yeah.
You can't take one Power11 server and compare it against one Intel-based server or one AMD-based server.
That's where I was going with it.
Yeah. It's really the equivalent of about 20 of those, or 10 or 20, depending on kind of what your configuration looks like, right? You can't take one Power11 core and compare it to an AMD or Intel core because it's equal to about 20 of those cores. So you have to kind of look at cost and price differently with Power than you do traditionally with your distributed. This is a challenge they have on Linux One. It's you see $100,000 for this and you see $4,000 for that, and you're like, well, how does that make sense? Well, it makes sense because that equals about 50 of the others. That's how it makes sense. So it's actually a price competitive, but they have to change that and educate the market on a core is not a core, a processor is not a processor, and a server is not a server, right? And kind of change that thinking. That's why it's easier for them to go into an IBM shop that already understands kind of what is going on.
Exactly. They get the value. Yeah.
They get the value and they get the math, right? Yeah. You're not going to go into a shop that has no IBM and sell them. Not today, not tomorrow, not next week. That's a very, very long-term, if ever, kind of discussion. But that's the real thing is you have to kind of understand, explain this math and help it be understood by the IT consumer. But they can. They certainly can.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to the end of our so exciting data center podcast from Moor Insights Strategy. Guys, any closing thoughts before I let you go? We're in the summer, so I'm guessing we're all kind of relaxing a little bit.
Yeah. I'm spending some time here, like I mentioned at the start of the podcast, and a little more vacation time mid-August with my very supportive wife who supports my insane travel. Like I know you have a very supportive wife as well, Matt, that supports your insane travel. But yeah, and then I'm back at it. Come September, I'm back on the treadmill. So
the treadmill, I love that. Yep, the travel.
How far were you from Guadalupe River?
Say again, Paul. Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I said, how far was your cabin from Guadalupe River?
Oh, you're talking to me, Paul. So I'm near the Colorado. And so Colorado is just a stone's throw from where I live in Bastrop. So the Guadalupe is much further west, but you may have been directing that to Matt because Matt lives in Dripping Springs. Yeah. So Matt, are you close to the Guadalupe as well?
No. But to the question, I think this is good for listeners. That's a good question, Paul. So Kerrville is a really cool town, and it's in what's called Hill Country. And people get, I was talking to a friend of mine up here in Boston. He's like, well, Texas is flat. I'm like, no, it's not. Where we live might be flat, but Hill Country is hilly. It's called Hill Country for a reason. And that area is where all of the Austin area families send their young children for their away camps. It's either that way or it's just outside of Bastrop, right? And there are a lot of folks that send their young daughters and young sons to camps out that way. It's a beautiful town. We used to play baseball out there quite a bit, but it's scary. We got localized flooding, but nothing like what they had. Paul, I don't know if you were impacted. You're up by Cedar Park, right?
I'm on top of the hill. Everything is downhill from me.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, nothing for us. Just what a tragedy that was.
But like it's been grueling and lots of fundraisers going on. I was pretty vocal on Facebook, and then I actually posted some thoughts on LinkedIn around connectivity. There are a lot of challenges. This is likely not even a 100-year flood. It's likely a 500-year flood when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
The economic impact is expected to exceed $20 billion. Yeah. And one of the big challenges, and one of the big challenges in the Texas Hill Country is that it's solid limestone, and everything basically, they say shit rolls downhill, water rushes downhill.
Sure does.
And no one expected it to be the extent that it was. Almost 30 feet rose in 45 minutes. So there's a lot of finger pointing going on.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. But one of the challenges, I believe, is connectivity, and because Kerrville is fairly rural. It's very rural. There's not uniform coverage out there, and so what's interesting, along the Lower Colorado River Authority, the LCRA, they've actually partnered with Ericsson. They've deployed a private network to manage a lot of the communications, not only for the parks, but for energy grid management and water quality and that sort of thing. So I do expect that, when, the investigations unfold, there's going to be a determination that there needs to be an improvement to cellular infrastructure in the form potentially of private LTE and possibly 5G networks. And I did share some thoughts, but yeah, it's been super tragic, and just 300 people are presumed dead as a result of this. I think about half of that amount have been recovered. So our thoughts and prayers to all the families that have been affected by this.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a really happy note to end on.
I know, it was kind of a bummer, right? But yeah.
All right. Last note, second half baseball season starts up. Keep an eye out for the Red Sox. They're surging.
Oh, the Astros are doing well too, my friends. So buckle up.
Buckle up. It'll be a fun second half. Listen, guys, thank you so much for taking the time today to chat.
Yeah.
It's a great catching up, Paul. It's great to have you back. And
Yes.
for those of you that are watching from afar, thank you for listening in, watching in, and please like and subscribe, and direct any negative comments toward Paul, because he seems to be in a good mood and he needs to be brought down a little bit. And we will close with what we started. This is not financial advice. Keep saying that. This is not financial advice. Anyway, thanks, guys, and have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Yeah.